Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Last Days. My name is Laura-Lynn Tyler Thompson, and I hope you are having an absolutely fabulous Thanksgiving. I've heard from a couple of my friends that they are overdone on the turkey, and so you know that tired feeling that comes over you. Ironically, two people have kind of told me that today, but it's good to be with you. I'm encouraged that we are understanding the season and the times that we are in. I'm hearing from more and more people that they are not going to be fooled by too much, that they are setting their course to be very wise at this hour. Now, you know, I love to read from my dad's Bible. My dad passed away just a few, I guess it was almost a year ago, actually. Ah, wow. Seems like he was just here, you know? So when he passed away, we found, so I can't hear myself in here anymore, but anyways, when he passed away, we found his beautiful Bible. Well, it wasn't hard. It was always right beside his chair. And there we go. And so I always open it up and see what are the verses he underlined, because he's underlined pretty much every page. Well, today my eye fell to Proverbs 15, verse 22. Without counsel, purposes are disappointed, but in the multitude of counselors, they are established. A man with joy by the answer of his mouth, and a word spoken in due season, how good is it? And I know my dad was always somebody who liked good counsel. He liked to be a man of wisdom. And many times I would sit late into the evening discussing things with my father when I was a young person before I left home. Even as a late teenager, early 20s, dad would always take time to sit and discuss stuff if it was going on. And, sometimes it would start with just comment, how are you doing? And he would always know if something was bothering me. And if he'd push just a little, then I'd kind of tell him a little bit about maybe something I was going through. And then he'd kind of ask a few more questions. And before you know it, we had spoken for like 2 hours and we searched out matters. And I appreciated that about my father. And that's what we do right now, really. We're searching out the matters that are going on in our world. And I want to talk about two really, really wonderful things today. And it's kind of about having fun. So I'm not going to be talking about anything too heavy, but we're going to talk about gold and silver. And I think that is a very important topic right now in knowing, sort of following what's happening in our world with all of the attempts by our government to make us into a digital world. What does that mean for us? And so my husband and I made the decision to sell our property in Canada and to not have our assets at risk in Canada at this time because of the work that we do. After the truckers' convoy and whatnot, we sort of made decisions about being prudent when you see trouble on the horizon. Proverbs talks about that, being prudent when you see trouble. A lot of people, including the guests that I will have today, have seen the way things are going and they advocate for preparation. And so we are going to talk about silver and gold. And so my guest, Steve Merrill, today is going to come on. And I just love this guy. I met him in Kelowna, and he is just such an expert on what is going on with money in Canada. And I know many of you have had questions because I've been getting your emails. So, Steve, thank you very much for taking time on a Thanksgiving Monday to be with us. I sure do appreciate it.
Well, it's an awesome day to be here, and happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And it's a
Yeah.
perfect day because we're not sort of open to the public today here in downtown Kelowna, so it's
Excellent.
ideal.
Well,
Yeah.
I just thank you because I am getting a lot of emails and a lot of people saying that they want to know more and what are the concerns about digital ID. What are the concerns about what our government is doing? What is going on in the world? We're all watching inflation rise. People are saying that we're, printing money, makes them very concerned about where they should invest. And so we had a great conversation recently, and I thought I need to take this to the viewers so that they also can hear some of the thoughts that you have. And I know you're into the gold and silver that you advocate for, right? It's the stuff you can feel, right?
Physical metal.
Physical.
It's really the only form of silver and gold is physical metal. There are many, many derivatives of silver and gold, gold mining stocks, gold and silver ETFs, exchange traded funds. There's a number of ways to expose your portfolio to silver and gold. But until you own physical silver and gold unencumbered in your own possession, do you really own anything? So we recommend that everybody owns some real money, because silver and gold have never ever failed to be money. They've never gone to zero. It's impossible for silver and gold to go to zero.
Well, Steve, it's
They've been
amazing.
held.
Yeah, it's amazing because the Bible talks about silver and gold. It talks about silver and gold having value right up until the last days, actually. And so that's why I kind of think it's important. I heard a lady this morning on another broadcast. She was talking about money, and she said that some people had invested in gold and silver paper. So you own it on the paper. Yeah, and she had decided to get rid of all of that. Her and her husband had said they just sold all of that off to actually have the physical silver and gold.
Yeah, and I'm hearing that all the time. I mean, our generation, especially Laura-Lynn, have been bamboozled really into holding derivatives of silver and gold, into holding derivatives of everything, oil fields, pipelines, utility companies, all kinds of derivatives. We don't even hold the stocks anymore. Like you mentioned your dad earlier, it's likely that if he bought a stock, the broker actually delivered the stock. It came into the mail. And some of us as kids, we remember those envelopes, they had Disney or something in the upper left-hand corner. You actually got a share. Today, that's virtually unheard of. The broker holds your shares. Most of us, our entire generation, don't even hold our own stocks or bonds. We leave them in the hands of a broker or financial planner. All we use as money is this little ticket. We get a little ticket with some digits on it, and we think we're rich. Here's my money. It's really bizarre when you think about it, because for all of human history, all of human history, really, the world's reserve asset, reserve currency has always been gold or silver. Silver's actually been used more often as money, as a utility, as an exchange, as a form of exchange, than has gold. Gold has been the reserve assets of kings and queens and central banks for the most part. But it's been silver. I don't know if you can see that, but in Canada, we had silver dollars until 1967, and this is one. And we've got a upside down queen on here that the camera spins around for me, but we had silver in our currency until the late 60s. Our quarters, our dimes, our half dollars and dollars were silver. It was the same throughout the Western world. Germany, France, Belgium, England all had silver coinage, really from the 14th century right up till the time we were kids. Maybe we weren't quite kids yet, but until 67. Since then, we've been using debt as money, and that supply of money expanded, as most people know that watch your show, to infinity. And anytime we've experimented with this form of money, or other countries have experimented with what is called fiat money or debt-based money, it's been a disaster. It's been a disaster every time. So For me, it's a real simple trade. You know, you're trading one form of money, it's really debt, for that's never worked long term, paper money or fiat money, for another form of money, a real money, hard money, physical money, that's never failed. It's never failed to be money. So the trade is really simple. You get out of paper or bank money, what I call sometimes bank money or debt-based currency, and into money that you can physically hold in your hand. That's a gold maple. And again, that's very common in Canada. Gold maple is hard for me to, there we go. The backside has the Lizzie on it again, and it's 1 ounce of gold. We've got all kinds of silver and gold products. Here's a very typical product in Canada, a silver 1 ounce maple, similar to a gold maple from a design point. So you can kind of see the comparison, and an ounce of silver and an ounce of gold. And this money has never failed. There's lots of variety of silver and gold products. They come from the Australian Mint, they come from the Austrian Mint, they come out of South Africa, which was historically the largest gold producing nation on earth for 75 years up till recently. And our own Canadian Mint and the US Mint are probably the most popular producers of refined bullion, 999% pure silver or gold. Or in Canada, we've got a lot of products that are produced to 49 purity, 99.99% pure. It's a bit of a marketing gimmick. Our Canadian Mint is renowned for pure bullion. And holding them in your hands is a really satisfying feeling. You better at night. Everybody tells me they sleep better at night. There's a satisfaction. Gold and silver, like you say here, history and in the Bible, they're a resonant metal. They feel good in your hand. They feel good on your skin. Silver's been medicine actually throughout the years, and a lot of people know that colloidal silver is centuries to clear up so much diseases, but viruses and so on. It's a wonderful product. Silver is actually used in over 13,000 industrial applications. The computers we're talking through and the phones we use and the keyboards we use, none of it works without silver. So a lot of us today, and we strongly recommend owning more silver than gold today. And it's one of the questions I get most often is how much of this, how much of that.
Right. I was going to ask you, like, what's better? Because gold's a lot more money, right? Gold's more money, for the ounce, but silver's in everything. So it's needed.
Yes. There's a stat recently, 19% of mined silver today is being utilized just Chinese solar panel producers. The silver story is amazing. The global mine supply of silver is not 1 billion ounces. It hasn't been over 1 billion ounces for many years. And at these prices, which are historically low, we're actually at 600-year lows for silver prices, give or take a few dollars. It's an amazing opportunity to own, to own what has never been able to be money and is in huge demand and is at its lowest supply ever in the last 600 years. In fact, a lot of people who ask me, where do I start? I suggest an article on Seeking Alpha that was produced many years ago called the 600-Year Silver Bear Market. The market, you can Google it.
Okay.
And the other, like Canadians especially, seek out is actually a sort of a study paper. It was written by the Center for Policy Alternatives, and it's called Canada's Hidden Bank Bailout. Most Canadians are unfamiliar with how volatile our own banking system is. They've been duped with propaganda and all kinds of media to believe and ads that our banking system is among the best in the world, when in fact it's just about the most leveraged in the world. And in 2010, 2011, the Bank of Canada came to the after the financial crises, if you will, and the real estate collapse, the bubble that burst, and created from that, which was common for the Bank of Canada, because the Bank of Canada is not used, as a lot of your listeners knows, anymore. It was about 220 billion. So the first page is really all you need to read of this study. And the study goes on, it says $114 billion was delivered, created by the Bank of Canada and delivered to BMO, Scotiabank, and CIBC. And then the next line says, at the time, the amount of the bailout exceeded the market cap of these three banks. So our banking system in Canada, say 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and they've just been kicking the can since then. We have zombie banks in Canada who have been propped up by Canadian taxpayers who eventually are on the hook for this. The study does go on to cite a number for every man, woman, child in Canada, roughly 35 million. It was $3,500. So these big, strong banks that most Canadians have been led to believe cannot fail, in fact, failed 11, 12 years ago. And without us, we'd be talking about BMO, CIBC, and Scotiabank in the past tense right now. And you would have lost. If you've been a depositor in any one of those banks, you likely would have lost all your money. Money.
Right. And so do you think that that is what everyone's thinking is going to keep happening? Because I just read an article about that as well. Two things, that they won't be able to keep propping up the bank system. It's just not feasible to keep doing that. The other thing was a woman that was talking about finances said that silver and gold is artificially at a low point because they're trying to push the digital currency. And because of that, that's keeping it artificially deflated. And that can only mean that it will, at some point, really go up.
Well, yeah, the suppression of the silver and gold price is becoming more and more off everybody. The metal prices, there's really two markets. There's a paper market in gold. It's primarily concentrated in London. There's a group called the Gold Antitrust Action Committee. I highly recommend, if people want to go down this rabbit hole, it's one of the most fascinating conspiracies, if you will, that you'll ever read or get to know. There's a group of bankers that GATA calls the gold cartel. They're mainly 6 ringleaders, consist of some of the biggest in the banking world, who are specializing gold and have been really since the 70s, early 80s, after Nixon in 71 took the US dollar off of gold, severed all ties to gold, and gold ran up between 1971 and 1980, 2,500% from its fixed price under what was called the Bretton Woods Agreement of $35. It ran up after that fixing scheme ended to $850 in 1980. And really the bankers had lost control price then and were desperate to salvage the system. And because we had interest rates like they are approaching now, we a lot of, remember, late 70s pushing 20-21%, and we had inflation that was running very high, 18-20%, and they admitted it back then. They actually calculated inflation using real metrics back in the 70s. So you had an $850 gold price and you had a $52.50 silver price. 1980, all HE double hockey sticks was breaking loose, and a scheme was devised back then to corral the price of gold, to bring the price of gold down. And it was absolutely necessary to keep gold down, and it still is today, in order to keep the dollar looking good, and especially the US dollar looking good. a lot of people believe that, the US dollar quasi gold or is as good as gold. That hasn't been the case for a long time. Some people ask me, well, how come the dollar is so strong? And I tend to think it's because it was recent to be anchored to gold until 1971. If you were an international institution or a foreign bank or a foreign government, you could show up theoretically in DC with 35 US dollars in exchange to gold. So, yeah, if people really want to know how and who and the gold price manipulated, and really has been all our lives, all of our adult lives, the Gold Antitrust Action Committee is a great start. They've been around since '98. The website is gata.org. And these people are heroes for exposing the manipulation of the gold price. They've been doing it for years. They do not hide it anymore. They tried through the 80s and 90s because after the 1980 high of 850, gold actually fell through the 80s and 90s. Inflation didn't fall through the 80s and 90s. The money expanded exponentially through the 80s and 90s, but gold fell to a low of about 260 in the 90s. As everything else was going up, housing and tires and dental work and artwork and everything else, the gold price fell by 70%, 75%, and it hit its lows in 260. You'll read on the GATA website that really the whole conspiracy hinges around the word lease. Central banks loan these bullion bankers in London real gold when a counterparty to a gold contract in the futures market puts their hand up and calls for real gold. The deal between, let's call it JP Morgan, is a bullion banker who sells gold futures contracts, and the Bank of England, who mobilizes real gold, is written up as a lease agreement, which allows JP Morgan at some future date to return the gold that left the vaults of the Bank of England, and allows the Bank of England to not report the gold as missing. So GATA believes that 35,000 tons of Western central bank gold has been mobilized over the last three and a half decades in order to bail out the fractional gold sellers in London who are on the hook for this gold. They've got, theoretically they have to return it at some future date, but it's a conspiracy between the Western central banks and the bullion bankers to suppress the gold price. Why? Because gold has always been the barometer of financial stress. It's always been the metal we look to gauge inflationary pressure. If gold is higher, the general public thinks, oh, things aren't so well. If gold is lower on Saturday morning, you open the Financial Times, oh, everything's okay. Today's a great example. There's all heck loose in Ukraine, if you will. And most people would instinctively go, oh, the gold price should be up $50, $100 with this mess, this threat of nuclear Armageddon, like, Bozo Joe said. No, the gold price has been pressured down $27 US today. And anybody looking to the gold price as a means to gauge war or financial stress is going, oh, I guess things aren't so bad. Gold is down. But they've been forever sending these contrary indicators through the futures market. Again, there's no real gold trading for the most part in London. There's some that suggest that these London bankers are selling 250 ounces of gold on paper that they don't have for every 1 ounce of physical gold in London. 250. That's like you and I running a store, and we've got a whole bunch of customers who want to buy milk. We've got 1 quart of milk in the cabinet behind us or in the cooler behind us. 250 customers come up to us, leave us $5. We show them the milk. It's behind us. It's in the cooler. Trust us. They leave us their $5 and they walk out of the store with milk. And as long as people do that, the bankers get away with this. When the odd person does want milk, or does want gold in this case, we got to go find some. And in the case of the London bankers, they borrow some or some from a Western central banker. So the gold is actually missed vaults at the Bank of England, Bank of France, and others. Canada's gold has long since been mobilized and is completely gone. There's more gold on my finger right now, my neck, than the government of Canada has. It's long been rumored that all the Fort Knox gold, over 8,000 tons, reportedly back in the 50s, has all been mobilized. Why? To keep the price down, to keep the dollar looking strong, and to ensure that all the other markets are manipulated equally. There is no suppression of interest rates. There's no historically low interest rates like there's been for 2 decades without artificially low gold. The gold suppression scheme underpins all the other manipulations of all the other markets, the bond market, the currency markets, and all of them. The minute they lose control of the gold price, the bond market, the interest rate markets, like we're seeing, are will quickly be out of control, and it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be messy, and it's.
So what does that mean to somebody when that should happen? Everyone I know is saying you should invest in gold and silver right now. So when you say it's going to be a bloodbath, what does that mean exactly? Give me a scenario. What does that look like the day that happens?
Well, it means there'll be a default in the London market. There'll be a call goes out for
They'll be
real
in
gold,
trouble.
and that's
Right.
and these bankers, call them J.P. Morgan, Citibank, Scotiabank, are among the ringleaders of this cartel. Barclays is on that list. Barclays, Rothschild kind of dropped out of the fixing scheme. They don't hide it. If you do a little research, you'll see they call it the London AM and PM fix. For years, since the early 1900s, they've been fixing the gold price. A group of bankers get around and call each other, 6 of them or 7 of them, and agree what the gold price is going to be. It's not a free market. It never really has been. I mean, but the way they do it today is through fractional gold futures contracts and borrowing gold from central banks, who still do have some, not much, because the Bank of England, we believe, is naked of any physical gold. What it looks like is a futures price that probably goes bananas, $100, $125, $150 a day. There will be no sellers of physical gold. All of us who've been holding gold are holding it for much higher prices. There will be what's called a force majeure. The bankers likely won't go to jail for this. They will paper this over with a bunch of dollars, which they can create from nothing, basically. And they'll have their hands slapped and pay a bunch of big fines. But it's likely the futures environment, the gold futures LBMA complex in London will cease to exist, and we'll go elsewhere to look for the market price of gold. We might go to Kijiji or Facebook or Craigslist to find out what an ounce of gold is selling for, because that's the only place anybody's selling a real physical ounce of gold. We had a default recently in the nickel trade, and you can search this. Anybody can. The price of nickel moved 260% on the day because a bunch of commercial traders who were selling nickel they didn't have got on the wrong side of this trade and got called. It's kind of like the old movie with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, Trading Places. You know, when the 2 old guys that had the seat on the stock exchange, they got murdered. They were, at the end of the day, they were done, and the old guys in the floor of the stock exchange having a heart attack because they lost billions that morning because they got on the wrong side of the trade, using a lot of leverage. So recently, it's 3 or 4 months ago, the nickel price moved 260% on the day. What happened? They froze the market. So there was no nickel bought or sold for, I think it was almost 4 days. And there was some fines. And, the authorities, if you will, the commodities bosses in London, I'm not sure what they're called, but over here it's the COMEX and the CFTC, got together and help out their buddies who get in a jam. And that type of scenario is likely to happen to these London gold bankers, but times 100, because the London gold market is a $3 trillion annual Ponzi scheme. It's the biggest Ponzi scheme the world's ever known. It makes Madoff and other Ponzi schemes look like a kid. It really does. And when they get called out for the real gold, it's like I say, it's going to be messy. And the gold price could go to any number, pick a number. And it doesn't have to be the case that the dollar and the currencies melt down and go to the floor and hyperinflation decimates all the currencies, although that is happening. People are feeling that, and that will eventually happen. All paper money reverts to its intrinsic value, which is zero. And the gold price might not even be measured in dollars. It wasn't that long ago you bought a finely tailored men's suit with an ounce of gold. An ounce of gold has always been a way to measure work, to measure sweat. And we might revert to something like that. There's talk of a gold-backed digital currency. I'm not an expert in that area. I do love the crypto space. I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. I believe it's a wonderful form of money, but I wouldn't suggest owning Bitcoin before owning gold. And I sure as heck wouldn't own gold before I own silver, because as good as the gold story is, silver is much better. Historically, you've only ever been able to buy 15 ounces of silver with an ounce of gold. Today, you can buy upwards of 70 ounces of silver with an ounce of gold. This is a kilo bar of silver, which you can own for roughly 1,100 Canadian dollars today. And this is one little tiny quarter ounce gold piece from the coin from the Perth Mint. Maybe do that, but you can see it's about the size of a dime. This is a $750 bill, $700 bill, a small quarter ounce gold piece. Silver is much better value today. There's never been a moment in human history where you've been able to buy this much silver for the same amount as gold. Historically, in the ground, it's been a 15-to-1 ratio from the 14th century right up to the late 60s, and right up to 1980, when gold went to 850 and silver went to 5250 US. You divide this by 15, you get a 15-to-1 ratio. Today in the ground in Mexico, which is one of the largest mining jurisdictions, there's a fellow by the name of Keith Newmeyer who says in the ground today in Mexico, we're finding 7 ounces of silver, 1 ounce of gold. So the disparity has never been greater. Silver today is trading at half the price in US dollars, less than half, as it was in 1980. And I challenge anyone to name anything, let alone a valuable commodity that used to be money and has been used as money throughout the ages, to challenge them to name another commodity, anything really, that's half the price today as it was in 1980. It doesn't exist. Housing is up 100-fold since 1980, especially where you are and where I am, virtually everywhere in the Western world. A tire or a tank of fuel, a haircut, a root canal is up 50 to 100-fold, but somehow the price is silver, the metal that's been used as currency, and that is in very short supply and extremely high demand, is somehow trading for half the price today as it was in 1980. It makes no sense until you understand that a group of bankers, mainly in New York in this case, are operating a similar Ponzi scheme to the London bankers who run the gold market in London, and are fractionalizing, by some estimates, as many as 400 ounces of silver on paper in the form of COMEX futures contracts for every 1 ounce of physical silver. A fellow by the name of David Morgan did an estimate recently, 4 or 5 years ago, suggested the entire world's above ground supply of real silver bullion, that is the pure metal, is 1.5 billion ounces. Well, times that by $21 or $22 US spot, which is the futures market price, and you got a market cap for all of the silver above ground on Earth today that is less than the market cap of Metrotown, where you are today. Far less. It's probably less than the building you're in Metrotown. There's nothing cheaper, and that's why I suggest 600-year silver bear market for anyone who wants to see a chart of how historically low silver is as measured in real purchasing power. It's an amazing chart at that article on Seeking Alpha. And then
So is this part of the artificially keeping it down? Is this why? Is that all mixed in with why? I mean, so you're saying it's a very good investment right now because it's so low. If anything changes, that could be what goes sky high.
Oh, I mean, Eric Sprott is one of the smartest guys in the room. About 7 or 8 years ago, put a team on this objective to determine a fair market price of silver. They came up with a 3-to-1 ratio of silver to gold. So and that's based on real supply demand, real demand amongst commercial industry for silver. Above ground stockpiles, which are virtually non-existent after World War II, you had 6 billion ounces in U.S. strategic reserves. During the Hunt brothers in 1980, when they tried to corner the silver market, there were 2.6 billion ounces in reserves. Those reserves are gone. The COMEX reserves, which were 2.6 billion in 1980, are less than 150,000 ounces today. The 6 billion ounces after World War II and U.S. strategic reserves, we believe, fell to zero in 2003 when George Bush signed an executive order allowing the open market to source silver so they could keep supplying Americans with what are called U.S. Eagles, which is a 1-ounce coin which by law is supposed to be available to Americans in unlimited quantity. Well, for years, they've been drawing, the U.S. Mint had, from the U.S. strategic reserves to produce and supply those real $1 1-ounce silver coins. 2003, George Bush had to sign an order allowing the mint to go out the open market, find the silver to keep up with demand, effectively announcing that 6 billion ounces of strategic reserves had been depleted, had gone. All the old silver money, all the old coins from France and Germany and Canada and the US. The US had 90% pure silver coins until 1964. Canada had 80% silver coins until 1967. A lot of them have been melted down. I believe it's between 90 and 95% of all this stuff's been melted down, and it's in your phone. And because the price is so historically cheap and manipulated, suppressed, if you will, there's no incentive to go mine the 5 cents worth of silver that's in this keyboard. But yet it doesn't run without 5 cents worth of silver. So your phone doesn't run without. So at these prices won't happen. Anyways, back to Sprott's paper, they discovered or they determined that a 3-to-1 ratio, fair ratio for silver to gold today. Well, gold today in Canadian dollars is running about 2,300, between 2,300 and 2,400 spot. You divide by 3, you've got an $800 silver price. But let's remember that in London, they're selling, some estimates, 250 ounces of gold that doesn't exist, or they have 1 ounce of gold for every 250 ounces that they're selling on paper. If you had a melt up in the gold price in this $3 trillion annual Ponzi scheme called the LBMA, you could have a 250 times higher gold price from where it is today, which is $2,300 Canadian. Now divide that number by 3. That's what some people are talking about, and I'm not the only one. I believe that silver today, at the bare minimum, should be $500, which would be a tenfold move from where it was in 1980, $5,250.
But silver is right now, it's at what, approximately, a silver ounce?
Well, it's interesting. A 10-ounce bar, which is very popular. This is a Canadian 10-ounce silver bar from the Royal Canadian Mint.
Yeah, closer to your face, right? Towards your face. I know. I get confused when it's backwards too, right?
These are beautiful 10-ounce bars. Our mint does produce some amazing material. It's 49 pure. It's got a serial number on it. These are selling for about $340 to $350 per bar, so $34, $35 an ounce, about $8 or $9 more than the price you see on TV in Canadian dollars after you adjust for the US price to Canadian dollars. A lot of first timers make the mistake of looking at the US spot price on TV or on BNN or Bloomberg, forgetting that we're dealing in Canadian. The Canadian dollar's been getting hammered the last 2 weeks, especially.
It's like 64 cents on the US dollar some days.
Yeah, it's not quite that cheap yet, but it's,
well, if you go to the bank,
it's going much lower. There's no fundamental reason for it.
Like we went to the bank to buy US, and because we keep changing everything over, right? And so like today it's 138.
Right.
So is what? Yeah, so it's 662.
Right.
So yeah, 1.38. So you go to the bank and you're like, but no, like if I had an American dollar and I wanted to buy a Canadian, I'd get 75 cents. But
Right.
if you want to sell it, it cost us 64 cents. So 70, so is that 73? Yeah. But if we go and buy it, I'm not good at math. It's like
What's interesting,
62 cents. Yeah. Right.
we've got coins like this one
Yeah.
from the US Mint, the US Eagle, selling for almost $50 Canadian. There's a full 100% premium on a US Eagle right now.
Oh.
You look around at any of the big websites, Kitco or Border Gold or Silver Gold Bull, and you've got a full 100% premium over the fake price, the futures market price, and the physical price. We don't even hardly recommend Eagles to anybody unless they really got a soft spot or want one or two for whatever reason. You buy them in tubes like this at 20, but 20 coins like this in a tube, that's almost $1,000. We can get coins like this one. This is beautiful. You'd like this one. These more generic rounds that come from the. I apologize, folks. I don't know what,
you know what it is? Everyone needs to know, that when you're at home, like the camera's back, it's like you're in a backwards mirror. I know, it's very confusing. That is gorgeous.
Very pretty coin. It's like Pegasus. I think there's wings on this horse or something, and you can buy that for $35. So that's what we recommend. We really do recommend weight.
Is that
Kilo
silver size as good as why is an eagle more like it's what's on the stamped onto the silver coin?
Well, in general terms, your coins are more expensive to make. 32 coins with a pretty little eagle on them, or a image of the queen, and there's some security features built into some of these coins, is much expensive. There's higher production costs and marketing costs from the government mints. We recommend a lot of rounds or coins that come from mints like Scottsdale or Sunshine, which are private mints. They're run much more efficient, and their production costs are a little bit less, and they do lots of volume. And so in Canadian dollars, you can buy silver anywhere as low as 33 and a half right now for kilo bars, and then upwards of $37 for maple coins that come from our Canadian mint. And we recommend a little of those. Like just this morning, we booked an order for a gal. She was a nurse here in BC, and it's about $55,000. She bought over 1,500 ounces of silver for that. We booked 500 silver rounds. We booked 200 silver maples and 85 of these 10-ounce bars. And so if she really needed some small weights, a lot of people think they need smaller 1-ounce weights perhaps to make change or pay someone in the future in the case of a total meltdown of the banking system, and that could be the case. And I tend to agree. We mix a lot of 1 ounce weights into an order like this one, but the bulk of it was in the 10 ounce bars or the kilo size bars, which could be had from 33 and a half to about $35 today.
What I like about those bars, though, you can really store those. Like you can, get a clump of them. It's tiny. You can hide that in a safe, or you can hide it, where nobody knows where it is, and dig it up on a rainy day when you need it. But you're right. If there was a total meltdown, people have asked me this question. How do you answer this, Steve? That, okay, let's say money, I don't know, the Armageddon, like it blows up. You know what I mean? Everyone's blowing everyone up in the world. Your money's now worth nothing. And Trudeau's sins have finally found us out. They've been printing it. It's useless. So now you got a little silver coin. What do? You go to the store. How much is that worth? You're going to say, this is now worth, maybe now this is worth $120 because the dollar's worth nothing. And so if you want this, I'd like $120 worth of groceries. I'm going to give you a coin. I mean, how is it going to work?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, if and when, I believe it's when the futures market pricing scheme, which is heavily suppressed, blows up or melts down, the price of silver and gold will go much higher, and you're going to see shortages. I believe we're already seeing huge delays in some products. Is we got kilo bars that are delayed right into November now, delivery, Credit Suisse bars and some others. But it's hard to know. It'll really be interesting. It'll be a mechanism between the two parties. What's it worth to you? What's it worth to you? I mean, historically, a gold coin has been equivalent to a finely tailored men's suit. Back in the 50s and 60s, when gold was fixed at $35 an ounce, you could buy a house with 50 ounces of gold equivalent.
Wow.
We may revert to something like that. 50 ounces of gold today is only $120,000. So something's mispriced.
Right.
I believe it's gold, obviously.
Right. But before you go, I want to. Oh, I'm so sorry. I cut you off there.
It's fine. I mean, I'm in that camp. I don't believe, I don't believe gold and silver the do all end all. I believe beans and bullets and cans of beer could be as good of forms of currency or money as gold coins.
But people will try to find that they will try to find that that monetary the foundation. And if you have silver coins or whatever, I mean, it really is a shocking thing to think of where we are and how much people are beginning to say, make sure you get your silver. And then if you hear that there's a little bit of a wait, to get your bars or whatever. So you are recommending this, like you think that it is it's a solid investment. I can't see it going wrong because I put my hope in the word of God, and right till the end of time, gold and silver is there. So it's just that food can become awfully expensive because if there's a food shortage, that's a problem. So
sure.
It's going to demand.
The food is in our face. I mean,
yeah.
These bureaucrats and politicians who.
Yeah, I've been having a little bit of trouble with your internet there. Are you good now? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's good. I was just going to comment. The bureaucrats and politicians or the bankers and some of these who say from time to time that they're going to rein in inflation or corral inflation or bring inflation down back to where they're historically comfortable with it at 2%, have got rocks in their head. That has never been the case throughout human history. I don't believe that inflation has ever gotten better after it's gotten worse. I mean, even in 1980, when inflation is running 20%, and they did corral the gold price, managed to suppress the gold price so it didn't reflect the inflation like it historically has. All they did was change the metrics by which, and most of your listeners know this, change the metrics by which they measure inflation. They're doing it today. They kick certain things out of the basket like bacon or rubber or housing, and we know this today. There's never been a time where rampant inflation doesn't end in hyperinflation, and hyperinflation comes on near the end very quickly. It's very dramatic, and it really destroys the middle class in every case. And you can look around the world today at Venezuela or previously Zimbabwe. You want to go back a little ways to Poland in the 70s, or Hungary in the 50s, or Germany in the 30s. Ask any old timer, especially a Hungarian or a Pole or even a Russian. I get Russian people in here. They remember the 90s. The whole system was wiped out. The bond market imploded and everyone lost their money. Most recently in 2016, anyone with over 100,000 euros in a Cypriot bank was virtually wiped out. They lost the majority of the money, over 100,000, in the banks.
I've got friends right now refusing to leave their money in the bank, and they're just investing. It's like, what should I invest in? Real estate, gold, silver. Like, that's what they want, because we don't trust money. Just who knows what's going to happen to the value of money. In fact, we're losing pennies every day on our money sitting there in the bank, which is becoming more and more worthless. We're watching it firsthand, and we don't consider ourselves wealthy people. We're just trying to take care of what God has given us. And, with, sort of liquidating our real estate and everything, we just did the best with what we thought we should do. And we wanted some, silver and things like this, but you don't want to leave a large amount of money just sitting there in the bank doing nothing. The best thing you could do, if silver is at an all-time low, it does seem to be pretty much a no-brainer. And people are making that decision every day.
Yeah, they sure are. And I feel it. I mean, 6, 7, 8 fold from last year. But just I'd argue with you a little bit. You say we don't know, when in fact we do know. We're feeling the inflation now. In fact, you and I have been feeling it all our life, and everybody listening has been feeling it all their life. They've been losing purchasing power all their life. Leaving your money in a bank today is after inflation about an 8 or 9% loss at least over the year. If you're making 2.5 or 3.5 on a GIC today, and they're all bragging about rates that are now 3 or 4% on your savings. Well, we all know inflation's running 20 or 22 by some estimates, between 10 and 20, depending on how much food you buy and how much you grow yourself. You're losing 15% a year or more on your savings. Well, after 6 years, that means your savings are gone. We know that. We also know, because we feel that, we can see that reflected in our day-to-day lives. We also know from history that every experiment with debt-based money or fiat currency has failed miserably every single time. Ask a German, ask a Hungarian that lived in the 50s, or a Polish fellow who remembers the 70s, or a Russian fellow who lived in the 90s, or a Venezuelan who's down there today, or a Zimbabwean, or any African, or virtually any Thai or Vietnamese person. I mean, if you're Vietnamese or Thai and you're our age in our mid-50s, you've not only felt it once, you felt it 3 or 4 times in your 50 years on Earth. You've watched the banking system completely collapse 3 or 4 times. And now it's, I think it's 500,000 baht in Thailand to buy a.
Yeah. Your point is well taken. We're in very serious times, actually. And with the instability of the world, somebody was commenting in the line about, Russian rubles might be a good investment. I don't know, because they're basing it on gold. I don't know. But
I think the Russian ruble is a tremendous hedge in that, if you look at government currencies, like you look at stock, actually did any amount of due diligence, you'd find that the Russian economy is quite well managed over the last 2 decades. They're resource rich. their deficits are very narrow. In fact, I don't even think they're running annual deficits. They're running a surplus. If you looked at governments like you look at companies and who runs the companies and the management team and so forth, you'd bet on the ruble all day long, in my opinion. But
Wow. So people are asking
anyways,
Steve where they can get silver and gold and contacting you, and that's in your email, I believe, right? That we had in your
yeah,
yes, right there. Sovereignize@protonmail.com. And you kind of made that word up. I really like it. You're sovereignizing. So
yeah,
yeah,
uh,
sovereignize@protonmail.com. Because people would like to quite possibly hear from you, talk to you, email you, and get some information, and perhaps consider what they need to do.
yeah. Well, we've got a really good process for your listeners and other truth-minded people out there. Us and piggyback on our 25 years in this industry and on the volume that we do, and and volume really does matter. This is a really uh, narrow margin business, and virtually all your pricing is comparable. You look around the websites in Kitco or Silver Gold Bull or even Sprott Money, and you'll see there's a lot of comparability. We've done almost $100 million in bookings with various wholesale companies in Canada, at least, and we want to share that purchasing power. We want to build on those volumes. And just for you folks that listen to Laura-Lynn, I got a bit of a deal. We have silver bullets that we sell from time to time. This is a 5-ounce
Yeah,
round.
hold it up in front of your face, high in front of your face. Try that. There you
Right.
go.
So,
Well, that's
so
cool.
this is fun. So that's a shotgun shell made of pure silver. It's not a real
Oh,
shotgun
gosh.
shell. It's
Right.
it's hard to do. So for
Yeah.
every booking that comes through
Yeah.
your channel, Laura-Lynn, we're going to share every booking of $5,000 or more, which is really quite a reasonably good booking, a starter booking, if you will.
Yeah.
We're going to share one of these 5-ounce pure silver shotgun shells, and
That is so
and
that
I
looks
call them
super cool. You don't want to
I
leave it
call them
sitting on your shelf though.
I call them banker busters. They come in 2 ounce as well, 308
Right.
shaped, pure bullion bullets. So it's a way
Nice.
for us to, get to know some of your listeners, and I'd love to get to know more of them. We've had
Thank
a
you.
number of your listeners come through, and we've got a ton of referrals and a ton of good reports and good reviews, and I can share all that with people. But reach out on email, and we can walk you through the process. I've done it hundreds, thousands actually of times, and I love talking to first timers, and I love helping people just get their money out of the banking system. There's no better time to do it. It's an urgent call to action. It's got to happen.
Well, that is very nice, Steve. And I really appreciate that. And I know you have a very good reputation and you've been around a long time. So you are someone that can be trusted. You know what's happening. Whenever I have a conversation with you, I feel, that I'm understanding the world. And, the word calls us to be discerners of the times. And I think like when we look today at the Canadian dollar, being 62 cents, that's I think we need to maybe make sure that we're putting our money into something that is going to be sure and steadfast. So I completely believe in it. I
Yep.
feel good about it. I like it. It makes my spirit be at peace about this. And so thank you very much for sharing all of that with us. And I hope that people will get a hold of you and learn more for themselves and sort of take that leap and do something
Yeah.
good for yourself and your treasure.
I agree 100%. I'm happy to help, and we're here to help, and I love doing it. It's my calling, if you will,
Yeah.
kind of like yours is, and we're here for people. So
That's a very
Send us
important
an
point.
email, put LLTV in the subject line, and we'll make sure a bullet goes back with the order. And
That's
we're
cool.
delivering right across the country. So there's, whether you're in Inuvik or St. John's, Newfoundland, doesn't matter, anywhere in the States, actually, we can put metal right to your door.
Okay,
Assured
Canada
delivery.
or the United States. Okay,
Oh, for
that's good
sure.
to know. Yeah. That's really good to know. And it is your calling. I just wanted to affirm that. Like,
It is.
yes, like you truly, you understand it all, first of all, which is very comforting. And this is something you do because you really believe in it. You like helping people and you know this is a good investment. You're not selling a lemon of a used car. Like you really, really believe in what you are offering to people right now.
It's a financial lifeboat right now. You've got to get out of the banking system. It's going down. It's the Titanic going down. There's not enough lifeboats. You want to be in one for sure, and this is a good one to be in.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you so much, Steve. Let's do this again, and
So welcome.
we'll remind our listeners here and there to be making their investment sure with you. So thank you, and God bless.
Thanks, Laura-Lynn.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
Bye bye.
All right.
Very, very nice. Okay, make sure you take that to heart. I believe in this. I only like to talk about things that I think are important to us at this time. And so I get a lot of people that want me to, you know, come on and talk about their products or whatever. You would not believe what I turned down. And Steve didn't even come to me and say that he wanted to, do this. I have sought him out because I keep hearing everywhere I go, silver and gold, silver and gold. And I was listening to Proverbs this morning for a couple of hours, and it's all filled with talk about silver and gold in Proverbs in the Bible. And I think it's important. It's sort of a standard that God set. So with it being low, it just sounds good. So may God help us all to make good decisions. I want to bring on my dear friend now, Mark Savoia from, he is in Costa Rica, and we've been hearing. I wanted to talk to you again, Mark. Thank you for waiting. I know that you're probably sitting in some really hot room just boiling while you listen to us talking about silver and gold. Wasn't that interesting, though?
It was really, really interesting. And I hear it a lot down here too. And I have a lot of people that when they reach out to me, they're like, Mark, how do I bring my silver and gold to Costa Rica? I'm like, good question.
Right.
It has to go through customs.
I did. Yeah, you got to get through customs. Right.
Exactly.
Well, that is a good question, and we could maybe get into that if you know anything about it. But really, Mark, I've talked to you because we are seeing that people are leaving in droves from Canada. It is a 50-year high of people deciding that they do not feel safe in Canada at this time. They do not feel their money is safe in Canada. And, I am Canadian. I am a dual citizen of America as well, but my children are here. So my life as a parent, grandparent, and having family leads me to be very connected here. But we also know that there are other places we can visit and we can enjoy, we can invest in. And a lot of people, a lot of Canadians are talking to me. They know you. And so, Mark, you're just, it seems like a lot of Canadians making the decision to head to Costa Rica. So how is it that you help them?
Well, you know what it comes down to, Laura, is everybody's trying to find their way. Right. And when you're looking and researching a new place to reinvent yourself and start life, they're like, where do we start? Who do we trust? So like I was saying before, the relocation companies down here, they charge thousands. So before they give you any information that I give you all for free, they say, what's your credit card number? Here's my PayPal. Let's begin. So I'm handing people all that information. There's no charge for it. So anything anyone needs help with, I'm there to help them. And if I don't have the answer, I will redirect them to somebody who does have the answer. Right? So from contacts, from paperwork, where to notarize, authenticate, which lawyers to use, who to trust, transportation. And if they come to my neck of the woods, having the honor of being able to help them find either a home, the location, or build them a house. And if we're in the other part of the country, I have helped hundreds move to going to Costa and stuff. I have never yet to meet them, but I refer them to an agent in that area who I've used before in the past and I trust. Right.
Right. So this is
very
different
important.
parts of the area, the country of Costa Rica. What are
Exactly.
some of the biggest challenges? People are very scared, aren't they? And I know a couple of friends of mine have made the decision to go and to. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a pretty beautiful country. You can't go wrong with the beaches and the warmth and all of that. But it is still a daunting challenge to consider, uprooting from everything that you've known to be
It
normal
is.
and to head over to this country. Now, I've recently seen like Costa Rica, it does have like sort of poverty in it, but it also has an up and coming, well, it has a president that has really supported values of freedom. He has absolutely said that vaccine mandates would never be a part of his country. And so some really good politically good things have been happening there.
Well, he just lowered the price of gas.
Oh,
So
right there.
basically, we know this country is ran by the people, right? And Costa Ricans are very religious, very religious. What do you remember when you were a kid on a Sunday? You'd hear church bells going, stores would be closed, just your grocery store would be open, but shopping malls and everything else are closed. Everybody's at beaches, house parties, restaurants, there's gatherings. And it doesn't matter if they know you or not, they invite you in like they've known you for years, right? So I actually appreciate that because it makes you really think and appreciate, as much as COVID is destroying stuff everywhere in the world, it's kind of showing you what is really worth it to you. What is the denomination of what your life is worth to you? And it's having people around you that want to be around you. Now, everybody always says to me, well, how am I going to survive in Costa Rica? What am I going to do? What are we going to do for work? And the first thing I tell people is when you get here, please decompress, reinvent yourself. You are back in the early 80s here. So, like if anyone's ever want to watch a good movie, watch Hot Tub Time Machine. They go back into time and they reinvent their lives. You have that chance here in Costa Rica from whatever it is you want to do. But if you don't put the work into it, like anything else, you won't succeed because you have to get out there. You have to mingle. You have to mingle with the locals, with the other expats, right? You have to adapt yourself to the whole area, which is important, right? And I always tell people that, right? But the first thing they need to do is decompress. It's important. It's good for the body. It's good for the soul. And people feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are like housing prices, land prices in comparison to somewhere like Vancouver?
So there's a big project here called the Seed. And since the last time we've talked, but even before that, because Costa Rica's popularity has become, it's strengthened over, just even over the last like 6 months, it's gotten ridiculous. Housing prices in certain areas like in Uvita, Dominical are skyrocketing because when people come down here, they want to be in the blue zone. They don't want to see chemtrails up in the sky. They don't want any of that. They want to see regular natural clouds, but they want to be surrounded by nature. They want an abundance of food. They want an abundance of fruit. They just want to have anything and everything possible. So the prices of houses, you do still have some houses in this area that you can get for like $275,000 to $300,000. They're very sparse, but there are some homes. Everything now is starting to get up in like the $450,000, $475,000 range. Land, we still do have some deals of land at like $75,000, $90,000. But when everybody comes down, they think Costa Rica, Ocean View. Ocean View has skyrocketed. There's not much left between Ojo Chao all the way to the north of us, even into Jaco, where Ocean View is. You find anything that's, relatively good under $500,000 US. So it's really skyrocketing. So there is a big project here called the Seed. It's 39 condos, 20 villas, It's way up in the mountains, and the prices are unheard of. It's an ecosystem development, but so many people are flocking to this area that it's just become such a hot spot, right? But it's a safe haven. That's why our great prime minister was looking, you know, Costa Rica, right? For that reason. But he's in Santa Teresa. He's where like the Islamics, the Arabics are, because nobody there really knows who he is. Where if he came
So
to
this is
Ibiza
Trudeau.
Dominical,
When you mean recently,
is
when
Trudeau.
Trudeau was in Costa Rica, he was in the Islamic.
Yeah, so Santa Teresa is a lot of Islamics, Arabics are in Santa Teresa. So they don't really know who Trudeau is. They don't really care who Trudeau is. So he has to be careful because Guanacaste, there's a lot of Canadians.
I bet he does have to be careful. And they all went there to get away from him. Yeah. Yeah.
He was
Watch your back.
taking a helicopter down to the beach. To go to the beach, he had to take a helicopter. He had to take a helicopter. The house that he was staying in was so well guarded, you cannot enter with a car. You were not allowed to enter with a car. So he was heavily protected. So I don't think this is a place that he wants to be, but this is a place where he can't be removed of if he were to come here. He has to be very careful here.
Right.
I know this is being
Well,
aired,
and maybe
but
that's why he likes it, right? He figures he'll, you know, maybe he can find some safety. He can hire the guards or whatever. But I mean, this is what the prime minister's done to his life. He's never, you know, he'll never know, even in Canada, where he can ever go the rest of his life, where someone's maybe not yelling at him, because he's enraged the nation. Even the Liberals, his approval rate is just plummeting. And I think the Liberals have a real problem on his hand. I mean, consider that all of the travel restrictions in the world are lifted except for Canada, you know, except for our citizens couldn't go to visit dying relatives in another land if they're not vaccinated. I mean, he killed the love, you know?
He did. But that's what he was feeding off of, right? So when people come down here, I was sitting this morning having breakfast. I'm like, okay, if I go early enough, I'm not going to run into people. I ran on a couple from BC. One was he was a chiropractor, and he had a successful business in BC. And I have a lot of people now reaching out to me from BC. And he's like, Mark, he goes, I uprooted my life. I got my son and my wife, and we left. He goes, we're sick and tired, not knowing what tomorrow's going to bring. You know, what today is. Is the sky blue? Is the sky black? We don't know. He goes, we just want to be familiarized around people that are like-minded, that just want to enjoy life. And down here, honestly, Laura, we don't care if you're vaccinated, unvaccinated. We don't care. It's not about what you did or, you know, had the wool pulled over your eyes. It's about just being part of a community, right? I met another couple from Texas who moved here with their two twins, right? They had two sets of twins. And he was ex-military. And he's like, man, he goes, you know, I'm sorry to say this, but he goes, what's coming? We haven't seen the worst yet. And he goes, it's coming. And this is from Texas. So he goes, we uprooted our life and we moved here. So I started a big expat community group on WhatsApp. And when somebody moves here, to get them situated right away with other individuals like yourselves, everybody that I put onto this group chat, they're like, welcome, how are you? How's it going?
So
right?
You're forming a community right away.
Yeah, and then Toby's been great because, you know, we've had a lot of people, and I'm like, have to meet Toby.
Toby's my producer, and she moved to Costa Rica, and she works with us from there every day. We're, you know, she's booking all my guests, so she's just absolutely loving it there. Now, what about food? Is there going to be food shortages?
No, because there's such an abundance here. You know, it's not like at home where, you know, everything is controlled, everything is monitored. You know, you have to have greenhouses. Here, you can just go take a fruit and plant it in the ground and rest assured not do anything, and it will grow. There's an abundance of food. You know, our energy, 60% of our electrical comes from the ocean, from the waves, right? So we generate our own electricity. Meat here, there are so many organic, natural butchers around that you can go and, you can get a whole cow if you want for $375, all butchered, brought to your house for you. Right. So when it comes for food, people don't worry. Like, where can you go shop at a little fruit market and buy a pineapple, a watermelon, 5 mangoes, 6 bananas, 10 passion fruits, and you're going to pay like $7 US for it? It's like, come on, you can live just off the fruit alone.
Yes, and that was what I was really blown away with in the last, the last couple years. Trudeau told us not to travel, so I did exactly what he said not to do. And one of the places I ended up going a couple times was Costa Rica, and I just couldn't believe the abundance of fruit and the beauty of it. And it felt so good because we're hearing all of these things about food plants being blown up, and Lord knows if you've got bugs in your graham wafers. It's so disturbing what's happening to our food. And now there's other things. I had I won't even get into that. It's just so disturbing what they're putting in our food. So I just loved that about there. You've got fresh meat, you've got fresh vegetables, and there is a real community as well. And the people are very religious, like you said there. They're largely Catholic, but some of them, evangelical, and just love Jesus, love family. And it's a very comforting country.
Well, they always say pura vida, right? It's a beautiful life. And then they tell you to go with God. So they don't hassle you and haggle you. You always have the one odd rotten apple in the whole group.
Yeah.
But 99% of them.
But in Canada, you got 3 rotten apples.
Yeah. And you know what the thing is, Laura? Sometimes I always get this one homeless guy, and he comes up, and he doesn't ask for anything. He takes my buggy away, and I'll give him some drinks, and I'll give him a little bit of money. And my wife's like, Mark, you see him every time. He knows who you are, and he smiles. I go, you know what? I go, we don't know which way God is working. God could be in that person, right? And that might just be the test for me, right? To him to say, help this person out, right?
Very
this is
kind.
your task for the day.
Yeah.
Right. And every time I see him, he actually blesses me. He goes, you're a good soul. He goes, thank you. And we're not talking a lot. We're talking a few dollars. But that few dollars to him makes a big difference. Right. So it's the act of kindness. So like as
Good
much
guy.
as
I like that about you.
Yeah, but so much as the material things back at home, everything was such a rat race, and you have to make what you can and show it off, and it's all about that and waking up, and then you spend those few weeks out of the year to go enjoy somewhere because you're like, I got to rush to the beach. That the time passes so fast that you only get one shot of life. The time that you lost stressing and worrying, you've given up. You can't get that back. So why not learn just to adapt and take a deep breath in, because every day's a gift, and just relax.
Well,
and everything.
You sure feel closer to God sitting on that white sand beach with all them waves rolling in, and with that warm water that's like a bath. I mean, I found God this last couple of years, just sitting there, because it had been so stressful. And I really do feel like God gave me an opportunity to, through literally, my righteous rebellion against Trudeau telling us we couldn't do this and that. And I've just said, not on my watch am I just kowtowing to this nonsense. And so I went through the rigmarole of everything. But when I was there, and I just, oh my Lord, it's so beautiful. We shouldn't not experience what God has given us that is so beautiful. We definitely need to do that. We have people in the line. They've got some questions. They're asking about property taxes in Costa Rica.
Okay, so property tax in Costa Rica, if you're under $600,000 US for your property tax, for a purchase of a property or a home, your property tax is going to be between $600 and $800 US a year for your property taxes. If it's vacant land, so what a lot of people do here is they'll buy a piece of land, so their taxes are $500 US a year, and they build a house on it. There is no impact. There's nobody that comes out and checks and says, well, your house is valued at $1 million. In their eyes, your house is valued at whatever the land cost is and whatever you tell them that your house is worth. Now, when you resell it, the next person will pay more property tax because they go by the value of what you sold it for. So anything above 600,000, you will pay a luxury tax. But comparison to back at home, I was 5,000 a year property tax. Luxury tax here, your property tax would be about $2,500 a year, $2,000 a year, depending, right? So it's extremely low.
So yeah, that's a lot less
It
right
is.
there. Especially maybe if you get, because I know some people, they don't want to view or anything. They'll get a nice plot of land. When we were looking sort of at we always wanted to know what's in the area. You could get a whole entire, was it 18 acres, JT, of coffee? We love coffee. Well, I do. And there's a coffee farm, so you could have this coffee farm going. It was 18 acres and it was what, 300,000 or something for 18 acres and a coffee farm. So you could, make your own Costa Rica coffee, right? I was like, yeah,
exactly.
Of course,
exactly.
That was a bit too much work for me, but still, there's these opportunities, and also, getting you can get a good sized plot of land for 80 or 90,000, and then you could build on it, and you could build for, I
Right
don't know.
now,
It would depend about
your
the kind of house
cost
you're
of
gonna run.
building at start is about 125, all the way up to like $160 a square foot, turnkey.
Okay, so
Right.
really done nice in a nice
Done nice. Yep.
finished.
Plus your furniture, and the furniture down here doesn't cost much if you get it custom made.
Right.
Right? It's not expensive.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, your initial setup is where the most of your cost is going to go. Then your cost of living and everything is substantially low. Like my cost of living back at home was between 10 and 15,000 a month. And we had no mortgage. That was the cost of my living. That same equivalent cost of living down here, I'm between $3,000 and $3,700 a month. And I do everything. It's going out for lunches, dinners, I'll go out, do activities. I have fun, right? And I'm entertaining people. I'm taking people out. I'm showing them around.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's a pretty big ticket you got there, 10, 15,000. I know you like your steaks and stuff, so that must be part of it. But
I said, it was all the traveling. Like every September to April, we would travel. I'm like, you know what? It's like you said, it's this great big earth. It's for the ones that don't have, or have the opportunity to travel. Why would you not take in and experience and take in as much as you can of different cultures, different parts of the world? Like take it all in. That's something that can never be taken from you.
Yeah.
Right?
Somebody's asking, somebody made a comment that a whole bunch of questions coming in for you. Safety, like, well, it's hot and humid. Somebody's saying, I'm like, well, it might be a little hot and humid, but in a nice breeze, it's pretty fantastic. So down at the beach, it's like, yeah,
it is.
Yeah. Mean, it's hot and humid in Florida as well.
Exactly.
But they did make a comment about safety. So I don't know, Philadelphia, the crime's up. I just saw a thing about living in Vancouver and how it's turning into a really dangerous place to live. So how does Costa Rica compare? Yeah.
Okay, so like anywhere else in the world, you have your different areas, right? So when people have never been here, I'll always ask them, where do you live? And they're like, Mark, why? I'm like, let me paint you a picture of what Costa Rica is for you, all the way from the north part of the country, all the way to the south part of the country. And I use comparisons to what they have back at home. You do have good areas and you do have bad areas. Our area is a lot of baby boomers and young families, but the demographics of expats in our area are people that are running businesses. We have the president of the ASADA, the legal water system, has a house here. So there's a lot of important people in our area. So I always tell people, the way you measure the crime in the area and the safety is always look, and when you see the police driving around with their lights on, and there's an abundance of police and trucks, motorcycles, dirt bikes, side-by-sides walking the streets, that area is heavily protected. When you see less of them, there's more crime in those areas. But it's like anywhere else. I tell people, when you go to a grocery store, would you leave a $100 bill on your dashboard?
No.
I wouldn't. So when they come on vacation here, then they're like, well, my laptop got stolen or my passport got stolen. I'm like, where did you put it? Oh, I left it on the seat of the car and I went to the
Surrey,
beach.
BC. Yeah, in the mall parking.
Exactly. And I'm like, was your windows up? No, I have the windows down. So I'm like, you expect that person who walks by and sees that and thinks, hey, it's free for the taking, even though it shouldn't be. Of course they're going to do it, right? So I always tell people it's about, having your wits about you, like you're being at home, because everyone thinks when they go on vacation or they visit a new place that, we're a visitor to this country, right? It's not our home, right? So you have to treat it with the utmost respect. And a lot of people come and they're like, they're rude to the people, the locals, right? They don't want to learn the language, or they don't even want to try, but they talk down to them. Where, when I see the police doing a spot check, I'll go to the convenience store and I'll buy them all pops, juices, water, and I'll go back because they're wearing uniforms. I'm sweating in a tank top and they've got armory on. Like, they're just standing there and they fist pump you and they're like, thank you. And,
they were so nice. They were so nice. Like, they smiled and waved. Well, you know what? I went there in the middle of the Vancouver Canadian lockdown, where the police had turned into something I did not recognize. And I got over there and, we're just walking around, and then they're driving by and they're like, like they just waved at you. I mean, it was like, how nice. I mean, it was just very pleasant. Yeah.
Sorry, but you know what it is during COVID, a lot of the police only made like 30 to 40,000 colognes a week. We're talking like $50, $60 is all they got. That's all the money that they got. So, when I see them, and, I was in the grocery store and one guy bought a bunch of Danishes and some pop for him and his partner. And I went up behind him and I grabbed his stuff and I pulled it in front with mine. We're talking $5, okay? And he looked at me mean. He's like, what are you doing? That's my food. And when I paid for it, I returned the favor and I said to him, Pura vida. And he looks at me and he fist pumps me. And he's like, thank you. I mean, because it's about helping. If I see somebody walking in the rain and they're carrying something, I'll stop and I'll pick them up and I'll give them a drive, even if it's out of my way. It's about helping each other out.
Community. Somebody's asking about Panama versus Costa Rica.
Ooh. Panama's cheaper, but when all the COVID rules were going on, if you got caught outside with a mask on, it was an $850 fine, no questions asked.
If you didn't have one on.
Monkeypox. Yeah.
In Panama.
Monkeypox. They declared a state of an emergency for monkeypox without even one case of monkeypox. And they're like, we're in a state of emergency. So
okay, you convinced me.
Yeah, when they raised gas prices there not too long ago, they blocked the Panama border to Costa Rica. They blocked it. There was riots. There was fights on the streets. They were taking cop cars, beating the cops up, taking their cars and torching them. I'm like, it was bad. And people like from Costa Rica didn't want to go over because they're like, you don't know if you're going to get caught in a crossfire.
So Panama, there may be more WEF than Costa Rica. I don't know what that is, but the president of Costa Rica fired a bunch of the people that had made the medical decision. I read the whole article. He said, in fact, that their positions had expired. So their positions had expired. No one said anything, and they kept making decisions to, kind of do some things that weren't good, and they just let them all go. And I really like your new president.
He's a good guy. People are mocking him because he was back in the day, right, with the country and all that, and they're mocking him. But at the end of the day, remember, politics, what happened for 4 years, we feel the effects now. Right. So here's this guy trying to clean up the mess of the last president. And when the last president came out and this guy came in, remember, he's a professional chartered accountant. He was going to go through all the books, and we so happened to have a cyber attack. And all the books got destroyed because the last president was using the money as his own personal bank account.
Oh.
Where this guy's like, no, we don't do that. So he fired everybody.
Canada.
Yeah, he fired everybody. And then everybody that was giving out the vaccine here, all the nurses and doctors, he said, if people can prove that they've been injured by that doctor or nurse that gave the shot, that person will actually be held liable for it. And here it's not peaceful here where they just, put up a sign and protest. Here they will get revenge on them because you're messing with their free will, their life, right?
And their children.
This country is ran by the people. It's strictly ran by the people, which is good.
And someone's asking if we can bring pets.
100%. So if you reach out to me, I give you all their information, what you need, what documents you need, what vets to use, what forms have to be printed. With a blue pen, it has to be done. And I tell you exactly step by step when you have to do it, where you have to do it, and every little step possible. Now, when you're flying with your dog, a lot of airlines are refusing pets, right? So there are a few options, right? So there's the option of going like Aeromexico, you got to do a stopover, or the other option, people don't like to hear this, and it's going to get back to it, is I do have access to private jets through one of the companies that during all this COVID stuff was helping people make the move, the transaction and transition into Costa Rica without having to comply with all the rules that they had to. And your pets get to fly with you on the plane. They get to sit right next to you. So they're not underneath the cargo with the luggage and you're stressed out the whole time. Is your pet going to make it, right? Because they're fur babies. They're part of the family, right?
I know.
It's very important.
Right. That's a very important thing, how we get our little puppies over to where we're going.
Exactly.
Well, I bet you love it. I know you've moved your family, your children. You're living the dream right now, aren't you? It's a beautiful place.
It is such an amazing place. And since the last time I talked to you, I had a lot of people inquire. So I spent a lot of days and a lot of nights on the phone because I always tell people, I don't like emails. To me, it's not personal. I like a phone call, video chat, WhatsApp. I want people to hear my voice. I want to hear people's stories. And a lot of them, it comes down to the uncertainty. What do we do? The unknown. Every day you wake up is an unknown. You're not sure you're going to be here tomorrow. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I always tell people, I go, the minute we're born, God already has our whole life written out for us. You can either fight it and think that you're controlling it, or you can just go along for the journey and enjoy it. So that's what it comes down to. So when I tell people, and I have families here that are like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do for work? And what are we going to do with this? And I'm like, guys, relax. Everything will fall into place. This door opened for a reason. The pandemic happened for a reason. You were meant to be here. As much as you don't think you were meant to be here. Now you can either embrace it and enjoy it and not worry about it because you're losing that time. Just take it all in and everything will fall into place. And it does. Right? They see it, and it all does fall into place.
It really does.
Yeah.
So you have a number that we've been putting up on the screen, and apparently anyone can call from Canada or the US or wherever to that number.
Yep.
Just add a 1 if you're on your phone or whatever, and you can just get through to you and ask 100%. Questions and maybe
100%.
Book a trip, book a vacation, everyone. Do you know, we went across Canada asking everyone if anyone had taken a vacation and no one has. Like there was 38 people out, out of hundreds of people that I met this last few months in Canada that took 38 people that took a vacation. We asked every single group that we went, and really, like, it's just refreshing, and you can kind of think, and this is a beautiful big world that God has created. So I do think that part of just enjoying and having dominion on this earth is being able to travel wherever you want and having a good time. Well, Mark, you make that possible, and you make it seem really hopeful and not so difficult. And I know it's easy to make friends there because within no time, you know everybody. Like you're just kind of, come over to so-and-so. I was having, lunch at someone's house that I hadn't known. And monkeys are outside, or there's these beautiful birds, those multicolored birds that are there. Just phenomenal. I mean, what is it? Yeah, the macaws. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm on Instagram and they'll see I post videos of the monkeys, the sloths, and everything. But you know what it comes down to, Laura? I'll say this quickly.
Yep.
Is everybody always asks me, they're like, why are you helping? Put a denomination in front of your help, even if it's $50. I'm like, no. Yeah. I go, I'm fortunate enough that I can help people, right? So I'm not always worried about, different avenues. I'm fortunate enough. So why not help the people? Because I said, there's families I've helped here.
Very nice.
I've helped people move to Nicaragua. I've never met them, right? But it's just fortunate and privileged enough to be able to give this hand.
You're a very nice person. I have to say that you really are kind.
You inspire a lot of people, so
You're
to see
earning
what
your
you're doing, it's really
treasures in
inspiring.
heaven. Yeah. Well, you're
Thank
doing
you.
unto others as you would have others do to you. And that's a very beautiful thing. But also you're a builder and you
Yeah.
are able to build homes as well.
Yep.
And so that's, that's something that you are tied into. So if people want to
I am.
buy a piece of property, build a home, they can build it with you.
Exactly.
your
And,
team.
and I like to educate them step by step so they see the process here. They see the way it's being done. Right. So every little step of the way they get to experience what it is I'm experiencing. And if somebody's buying, back at home and getting ready to make this move, it's weekly videos of the progress of what's going on, how the area is, just the surroundings that they're around. Right. And anyone that does make this move right away, I'll put them into one of the expats groups so they can start living their own lives through other people and they can connect right away.
Yes. I love it. Mark, thank you so much. Let's do it again. I always like talking about this beautiful place that we
Anytime, Laura,
that we all love so much. I really I appreciate your time. And it's Thanksgiving here in Canada. I know it's probably not there,
Happy
but happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving to you, Mark, and your family.
Thank you. You too.
All
And
right.
God bless you. Thank
Take
you,
care.
Laura.
God bless.
You too.
All right. What a great day to just talk about silver and gold and Costa Rica. It's kind of fun, isn't it? So what we're going to do right now is we're going to let go of those of you on Facebook, and we're going to I'll be back on Facebook in 5 days. 5, count them. I got booted off, of course, for just too much truth. So that's okay. I hadn't had a 30-day suspension in like a year, so I guess I deserved one. I don't know. I didn't even say it. Somebody else on my show said it. I don't think that's right. I think you should get to speak the truth and let the truth come out where it may. But we're also on YouTube today, and I'm going to be talking about some things that YouTube just prefers we don't talk about. So if you want to hear those things, it's just a few more minutes. I got a couple of very, very important videos we got to get to. And if you want to do that, then JT, do you have my share right there? It is we're going over to, we're on Rumble. Well, we're actually on 8 platforms, everyone, not just YouTube every day. Oh, my share's gone. All right, let me try to bring that on again. So I'll show you what my Rumble channel looks like so that you can go find me on there. I'm on Rumble. I'm on Odyssey. Tell me where else, JT. So many places. Liberty, D Live, Rockfin, Odyssey, I mentioned that, right? And then we put all of our shows up to BitChute at night. So if you're watching me on my wonderful, I have like 60 some thousand viewers on YouTube. If you're watching there, please know that if you like this show and you go, wow, I haven't seen you for so long, because we haven't really been doing a lot of programs here, because usually every day we're not doing a Thanksgiving fun and feel good special. We're talking about very, very difficult things going on in the world. And sometimes YouTube doesn't like that. So we're going to really honor YouTube because we respect their views in so much as we don't want to get kicked off. So we're going to leave and say goodbye to YouTube, and we're going to go over to Rumble and show some disturbing things that we feel that you need to know. So you did show that? Did you show my share? Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm going to let y'all go. Love you, YouTube, and see you next time.